Make no attempt to reload your device. You are now entering the hellhole.
Welcome back to the hellhole. We got sound. Yeah, we got sound. Of course we have sound. We're back. Chilling out, hanging out, and digging back into the personal archives. It's time for some more trading card arc action. We just did like an X-Men 97 inspired challenge in Marvel Snap, which got me digging into my storage, and I pulled out some of my favorite X-Men cards. The grim discovery of any collector. I'm definitely missing some. I don't know what's happened over the years. Clearly, some of the cards got away from the set. You know, I don't have a full set. These are just what I have. What's available to me. No gimmicks this time. No pack openings. No box breaks. We're just having a nice time revisiting some old favorites. Bit of nostalgia. Really just inspired by the X-Men 97 cartoon, which has really just kicked this stuff back up. You know, I'm feeling the X-Mania all over again. I still haven't seen the new show. I'm thinking I'm gonna wait till the whole show's out, and then maybe I'll check out Disney Plus and see if I can get it all in on a month subscription or something. Get the cancel in, do that kind of thing. What are we doing? I guess we're just gonna check out these cards. You can check out the Marvel Snap action in the archive on YouTube. Search for Hellhole X-Men or Hellhole Marvel Snap on YouTube, and then you'll find that. There's a link in the About section or the links section on Twitch. If you're watching in the archive already on YouTube, thank you very much. Check out the main feed for more stuff. Check out the About section at the end of each video. There's usually some recommendations. There's a new chapter of the Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer timeline that's up now. We finally got chapter 11 done. There was a whole heap of shenanigans in my little routine. My schedule got totally destroyed, so we've kind of like got set back for a few months, and now we're reset, and hopefully we'll get some cool stuff going. Let's get into this though. Check this out. Card number 1. That's a nice Cyclops. Cyclops has like a bit of a sketchy history as far as trading cards go, so it was nice to see a representative Cyclops. He often gets stuck in some sort of like goofy pose. He's not always, well represented. Sometimes, because you want the optic blast. That's what you're selling. I don't know. This would be one of the early, really good cards. I'm not sure. Maybe Marvel Universe Series 4 or something like that might have been a decent Cyclops. This is pretty cool. You can see maybe the thing that I've most enjoyed about this exercise. I've made my screen look kind of like, a little bit like one of the trading cards, because I love the design of this set. We're all thinking about Ed Piskor right now in the comics zone. We're all feeling the pinch of his passing, and I was looking at like Hip Hop Family Tree, and he did those great like hip hop poster pinups, sort of. I think they were the back covers on initial issues, and there might be a few extra in the omnibus. But they were Marvel Universe Series 2, I think, trading cards. And I think he thought they were some of the best. Were they X-Men? No, it was Marvel Universe Series 2. And everybody talks about like the Jim Lee X-Men trading cards, not the ones that recreate sort of comic art, but the ones that he drew separately. There was a book about them recently, the last few years. So a lot of people like that one. For me, this is the peak X-Men. I love this design. It's actually similar to is it the Jim Lee set has it's a border with this kind of like X logo repeating and sort of a little bit of like a background. Is it? It's not quite a marble effect, but it's kind of marble, and even like you get into the back here, there's kind of like a marble texture. That's marble with a B, like the sort of rocky is a very, very mildly radioactive surface. Marble texture. So you can see here, there's the classic Marvel Comics logo, maybe the best Marvel Comics logo in my opinion. Really, really just uninterested in that current one, the sort of Marvel Studios era one, which is just like a red rectangle with the word Marvel in it. That sucks. Give me some whimsy, give me some fun. Got the Fun Comics font. So the Marvel logo, there's your number for what card it is. This is card number 1. Love this set for very clearly printing who the artist is. That's really cool. Love like a little bio, real name, group affiliation. I just, back in 94, I don't know what to tell you, but I just thought it was incredibly exciting to see like group affiliation, X-Men Blue, okay, and then there's this weird like extra little symbol with the leader. Wow, how about that? Graphic design in 1994 trading cards. This is like a boom. Look, you got fonts, all kinds of fonts and designs. I loved, I was all about the wireframe. I mean, that almost, the wireframe almost feels like a continuation of the end of the X-Men cartoon where they have the 3D models they're spinning around. I don't know, is that only in like the first season maybe? It's got that wow, doo 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 doo. You know what I'm talking about? Doo doo doo. Somebody out there knows what I'm talking about with the 3D models spinning around. So it feels like the wireframe was just, I mean, what is it really achieving? Nothing. It's just it's a reprint of the face card. A very arbitrary detail, but it just seemed cool, man. In 94, this was the peak of cool, and I love like the little, almost like your textbook diagrams telling you about the powers and like pointing to where they come from, or some of them are funny because it's like where does the power come from? It doesn't come from anywhere. But cool set, love the design, just excellent design. I don't know that any X-Men card is as well designed as this. I love this, and yes, I had a lot of fun recreating it. So that's Cyclops. Who did that? Ray Lego. It's not a bad one. We gotta get on with this. Card number 2, Rogue. Again, Rogue can be maybe a little bit of a tricky one because her powers aren't necessarily very visual. She's got like obviously the mutant power. Like you check out the back, it tells you the mutant power. She's got power absorption, but then the super strength and the flight. Cribbed from Ms. Marvel. Remember back in the day too, real name unrevealed. The movies sort of force that issue, because how can a lady not know her own name, I guess, is the thinking when you go to the movie going public. How do you sell them that this grown woman, this dynamic, incredible woman doesn't know her own name? So I guess, is it Anne-Marie? I don't know how I feel about that. It doesn't sit right with me. But yeah, so it's really emphasizing the strength, the flight. We got the Jim Lee suit with the little bomber jacket, which is maybe the definitive Rogue look. I like that one. I'm not as keen on the old green, personally. Although I think the green is like fine, but I thought getting that X-Men yellow in there, it kind of just, it elevates it. It elevates it. And yes, obviously she's very attractive young woman, particularly when drawn by Jim Lee and artists like that. Look, what can you say? This card, not bad. And that's card number 2. Interesting that Rogue is number 2 is that I don't really know what the logic of this series is, like how they determine their order. I have 3 copies of Rogue, so I have doubles. Sadly, the condition in these is not brilliant. One of these is pretty decent. Nothing that would be worth grading. I'm missing card number 3, and that breaks my heart because it was one of my favorites. It's Beast. I'm sure you would have seen it. If you know the set at all, you probably know the Beast card. I think you can just see it on the left of your screen. I found a picture of a sealed box. It's still wrapped in the plastic, but you can see on the right side, that's the Beast card where he's in his lab, he's got his specs on. It's the classic Beast before people decided he was a villain, which makes me sad. So we're missing card number 3. We move on to card number 4. Great dynamic Gambit. I mean, is there a better Gambit card than this? I'm not sure. Smashing through the window, but you got to lead with the kinetically charged cards. That's great. Awesome. Classic sort of 90s design. Looks good. All of that stuff's wonderful. I think that's great. Who's the artist? John Estes? I don't do I know that name? I'm not sure. Very good card. I dig that. That's really cool. The cartoon X-Men are leading the pack. We got a couple of Jubilees here. This is a really good Jubilee. I quite like this one. I feel like this is a really effective rendering of Jubilee as as like an actual young woman. Sometimes it's a little bit cartoony, or somebody goes a little too far the other way. I always thought, Jubilee was like she felt like a real kid. She wasn't like a, oversexed character or something like that. At least not in my mind. I don't know. I don't know. Let's not get into it. But yeah, I like this. This is a Brian Stelfreeze. He's got to be one of my favorites in this set. Brian Stelfreeze does amazing work. Just a great. Did he do what was the Batman series he did covers on? I can't remember if it's Legends of the Dark Knight or Shadow. It might have been Shadow of the Bat. Brian Stelfreeze rules, and here's a great example of why. And this is pretty low key, I would say, for Stelfreeze. He does some more interesting sort of. Sometimes he does sort of slightly impressionist flavor to it. This is just like just a casual Jubilee in the classic outfit. Does she have the earrings? I can't. It's not the London earrings, but oh, look at that. You can see the dog corner on that one. I got 2 of them. I got 2 Jubilees, but yeah, so that's a good one. That's pretty cool. Card number 5. So like I said, the animated X-Men, the Jim Lee X-Men are getting out in front. One of the big ones, Wolverine. I gotta tell you, I'm not crazy about this one. There's something about this that just doesn't click with me. Some of it's the pose and maybe a little bit of the art style, although I respect it. It's just not for me. But it's also maybe the dimensions of the mask. I feel like the eyepieces should be maybe a little bit thicker, or a little bit like bigger. They're a little too separated. I like maybe a little bit more incorporation. I don't need it necessarily to be wrapping around the side the way sometimes it's done, but something about this one just doesn't sit right with me, and it never has. I think the pose is a factor too. It's sort of, he's lunging at you, which is like a good idea in principle, but the twisting of the back arm, I don't know, it just doesn't feel Wolverine enough to me. It's respectable. Who's that? Glenn Fabry or Fabry? It's good. I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think? Is this a good Wolverine? I think there's better Wolverines. I don't hate it. It's just, it's not my favorite. This is a weird one. To have it card number 8. I should have looked up, how do I say this name? I don't think I've ever known. Even when I was reading the comics, I would say, like, I don't know. I don't want to say it, man. It's another one I got doubles of, so this is like the whole Quanon Psylocke thing. So I guess this is Psylocke's Betsy Braddock, her body, but she swaps with the Asian body. Is she Japanese? I forget. I think she's Japanese. It's weird, man. Like, it's kind of weird. So I guess this is Quanon, the assassin or whatever, whose body Psylocke took over. And it's a whole weird thing. It's weird that this character would be on the first page, because if you think about like your trading card pages, there'd be a grid of 3x3. It's 9 cards, so this is card number 8. That's kind of weird. Why not? I mean, you put Psylocke in there maybe before you put. Is it Revanche? Revanche? It's never Revanche. Like that E at the end is never a hard E. Revanche? I don't know. I don't know how to say that. I don't know. I'm gonna breeze past it. Not one of my favorites. Finishing that first page, which I think I had. So who am I missing? I'm missing card number 7 as well. Who was card number 7? Don't remember. I'm sure I had that first page. Kills me that I'm missing one, because I don't have the set, but I'm missing what I had. But here's Banshee anyway. That's a cool one. Is this Julie Bell? Yeah, Julie Bell felt like a big deal back in the day, and I guess she probably still is. I'm trying to catch the light on the gold. You can see the gold foil for the names and the little Fleer Ultra thing. I didn't bother to recreate the Fleer Ultra text. I was content for the hell just to have our own little screen style. Yeah, Julie Bell has like a really great there's a smoothness. It's like lifelike renderings, paintings, but there's a smoothness to it. I feel like she adapts really well to the comic book style designs and costumes. She does very realistic figures. I remember too, like at the time, I guess Alex Ross is the guy everyone thinks of when you think of like comic book painters. But there's something about Julie Bell at that time showing up typically on trading cards that she felt like a big deal at that time. I don't know how much like actual comic stuff Julie Bell did. I would presume there'd be some, but there was sort of I think there was like she would do like these sort of like fairy characters and stuff. And maybe a bit of like sword and sorcery, sort of like Conan vibes and stuff like that. I'm sure I remember I wasn't really into that stuff, but I grabbed like a promotional Julie Bell card. I think I had like the silver signature on it or something. I think it was from a Julie Bell set. And it just, it was just very striking. She's got some other cards in the set that we'll check out. There's some really good ones. I really liked her Storm. She did a good Storm. But this is a pretty good Banshee in the sort of like classic costume. The giant size X-Men costume with those big stripy it's not really a cape, but it catches the sonic blasts somehow and allows him to fly. So he flies by creating sonic waves with his superhuman vocal cords. I mean, it's a pretty good card. Pretty exciting having the city rendered in the background. I don't know what else to say about that. That's cool. This is a really good one. Iceman getting a really good card. I like the sort of, he's almost like a little bit New Kids on the Block or something with the hair and all that, but I wonder is this based on somebody? Like, is there a model? Was this maybe like a guy who showed up in an ad or something, like an ad for jeans? I could imagine something like that. I don't know. This I see Life model when I look at this. Feels like a very 90s kind of, whoa, dude. Chill out, man. I don't know. I like this. This is just a great rendering of Iceman. It's the hard ice. I dig that. It's really cool. Classic X-Men. All that good stuff. Card number 10, so he's kicking off your second page. He could have been on page 1. How did they determine this order? I'm not sure. Because it's not alphabetical. I don't know. I do like, so you see like here, it's got superheroes under the name because they divided them. They did like the first chunk of the first section of the set is superheroes, then they do supervillains, and each sort of subset is color-coded with this great design. Like, I just love this. It's ridiculous, like, it's just like the repeating X logo, a little bit of marble type texture behind it, but it just looks great, man. I love that. And I wish, if I could feel anything, I wish I could feel the excitement I had when I was getting these packs new back in 94 or whatever. I'm assuming they were out in 94. Because the excitement of seeing these in the first, I don't know, I was young. I don't know if that kind of excitement is possible anymore. Like, you know, when you get to a certain age, it doesn't hit the same way. My bishop's looking a little rough, but that's kind of cool. There's something about like sort of an orangey. It's a little bit salmon on sort of like an aqua background. There's something about that says early 90s to me. Maybe it says 94. There was I think there was a Fleer Ultra NBA set that had a little bit of that flavor, and maybe a little bit of the marble texture as well, when they come to think of it. I wonder if that was like the 94 NBA Fleer Ultra thing. Was there a certain color signature, maybe related to like the card printing technologies that they use? I was checking out, there was a guy who was opening, what are they called? Some sort of current like X-Men premium trading cards or something, and he happened to mention that there was new technology involved in these like chromium cards, and sort of like that was a driving factor for a while where you see the improvements. Like if you head in the archive where I was doing like NBA trading cards, you can see like the 1990 NBA hoops are more of a matte finish, where you're getting into like the glossy finish now, and the little foil highlights. I mean, having the name in gold foil and the Fleer Ultra logo in gold foil at that time, you cannot underestimate how much that makes this feel like it's a big deal series. You know, like that little flourish is pretty big. You think of even like the upper deck when they get the little hologram logo. That stuff mattered back then. It probably would matter now. Although I think the equivalent now is like they're even deeper into like chromium technology of like the tiers of chromium, the sharpness, the color infusions, the color infusions, the patterns, prismatic and all that. That's the stuff now. Whereas back then, you know, a bit of gold would get you there. Plus, just this design. I got to keep going back to this design because it's so damn good. It's almost a shame the design almost blurs in with my like I don't know what you call this turtle shell pattern on my desk. You know, do not allow that to diminish the quality of the card. Again, great rendering. A little bit weird of Bishop just kind of like standing in a void surrounded by this. I don't know. Is this trying to like evoke him traveling through time, or something, or maybe yeah, I don't know what that background is. It just makes him look a little bit in the void, and he's just kind of standing there. And because we're looking at him from overhead, it almost diminishes him. It doesn't quite have the effect. Maybe if the upper body was a little bit bigger, although you'd get a bigger distortion, so I don't know if that would work. I don't know. It's somewhere between a great card and a little bit of a weird card, but you know, his name was unrevealed too. Isn't that interesting? So we know him now as Lucas Bishop. I mean, that's kind of that's what I liked about these trading cards, was getting information and stuff like that. Who's the artist on this? I think it's Ezra Tucker, who I think also did this next one. Yeah, Ezra Tucker. You can tell immediately from the visual style that it's the same artist. Again, there's something slightly off, but I like the attempt at the dynamic pose. This dude, does this dude have like was he just rocking the overhead perspective? Works a little bit better for Archangel, particularly it feels more dynamic. You got the metal wings of Archangel. This is when Warren Worthington is, you know, we all know it. He's undergone the transformation perpetrated by Apocalypse. His feathery wings become deadly metallic wings and put to rest any debates about whether or not Angel is lame or not. If you head over to Secret Wars on Infinite Earths and you look up Angel, he is a surprisingly highly ranking character. That's all I'm saying. Angel got around, and Angel got some business done with the feather wings. Don't worry about Angel. And I'm not even talking about the bazooka. He was just like, you know, he's kicking like Peregrine's Savat kicking bird ass out of the sky. That's all I'm saying. This is a good one. I feel like I keep having thoughts that I begin and I don't finish. Yeah, I like trading cards that had information. So this set is actually a little bit light on in terms of that. You don't get like your first appearance or any of that. You get the real name, you get the group affiliation, you get a nice little blurb, and emphasis on the mutant powers. So not too bad. But I do like then that these become almost like a time capsule, because we're going to see like characters who were unrevealed or unknown at that time. You see affiliations change. Here's that Julie Bell Storm I was talking about. Now check that out. Is that not like, that kind of knocks you on your ass? That's admittedly, like the figure in the frame is it's a little small, so it doesn't have like the big power of like a big powerful figure, but what you get is the drama of the scene, of the image. And has the Wind Rider ever looked more like, you know, the goddess of wind, the mistress of elements, kicking ass, love the lightning, and let's face it, Julie Bell, really great at doing like sexy characters, like you know, in those sort of like fantasy sets she would do. They were often like literally, if not nude, they were scantily clad, and there was a certain amount of sex appeal, I think, that was inherent in the art. I think that's a very attractive looking Storm. Let's not get weird about it. It's there. I'm just acknowledging it. Again, did Julie Bell, like, did she draw all the characters with the strange sort of like wrist to back capes? I'm thinking Banshee. Now we got Storm with her curious little cape. Super cool card. Backgrounds, you know, not pull in focus. A little bit of the fantasy style with the rocky, like sort of cliffs, mountains. A little bit basic, but I think that works. The drama it's all focus is on Storm. This is a great card. Really cool. Julie Bell, very effective. I actually wondered, you know, coming back to these, you know, would some of that stuff seem a little bit dated? It probably does, if I'm honest, but I think it's really cool. Jean Grey, interesting, really interesting card. She's like, what, stopping missiles with her mind? Which does recall, to my mind immediately, the episode 3, I think, of the X-Men animated series. In the first series, when Magneto's up causing trouble, he triggers some missiles. X-Men are gonna stop him. Storm brings one down. I think Jean Grey, is it Jean? Does she, or she? It's because it's not the whole team. Now I'm not sure. I don't know. In any event, it reminds me of that just because she's stopping missiles. The scale of those is curious. Either that's a gigantic Jean Grey or very tiny missiles. Maybe we're talking like some RPG kind of stuff, you know, in terms of handheld. What's going on with the focus? Keep focus. You're an expensive camera. Keep focus. So that's pretty cool. Jean Grey, again, classic X-Men. It's the Jim Lee era, sort of 90s X-Men, front and center. That's the look. We all remember it from the cartoon and the comics. Read more comics, folks, if you don't. Professor X getting in. What are we? We're card number 16. So Professor X, the founder of the X-Men, he's got to wait deep into the set. Card number 16. I'm missing, and I don't think I ever had card number 15, which I happened to see was Sabretooth. And it's a cool looking Sabretooth. You don't get the full figure, so it's a little bit of a shame in that respect, but he's like ripping through the card almost. It's pretty cool. Sabretooth was one of my favorite villains. I enjoy that. Of course, for him to be card 15, this is the period when Sabretooth was one of the X-Men. He was with the good guys. It never felt right, and it doesn't last very long. It does intrigue me though, because I have a strong memory of the series after this. So this is 1994 Fleer Ultra. 95 was another good set. That was a really good one. And I remember being at the I would go to the newsagent. I bought a pack. I remember standing around, I think I was maybe with my mother, talking to someone, and I opened up the pack, and that was the first time I saw Sabretooth with the X-Men was on a trading card. I think I maybe had glossed over the comics for some reason. And so that was the year after this. I remember I was looking at it and like shaking my head. How's Sabretooth with the X-Men? And there was like a little girl that was with the other lady. Thought that was very amusing. So that's cool. Nice Professor X card. You know, let's try to stay focused. That's a Tom Palmer. How about that? That's a cool card. I like, you get a little hint of Magneto on the computer. Professor X back at base, you know, being the intelligence for the team. That feels appropriate. That feels cool. And it's nice when these cards that can sneak a little extra reference. We got 2 Nightcrawlers. How about that? Now, looking at that, I assume that's a Sienkiewicz. Yeah, Bill Sienkiewicz. Sienkiewicz is an interesting one because some of his cards were not my favorites at the time. And I guess they still wouldn't be, but I have more of an appreciation for his style, but his style can be a little challenging, and it always was. I feel like the comic stuff, he would be sort of, at times he was a bit more tame. Like I'm thinking New Mutants, you know, sometimes it was a little bit more tame, so it had that going for it. And then when it was experimental, it felt more beneficial. This is cool though, this is a pretty good Nightcrawler. The hands are good. I really like the hands and the sort of sense of teleportation. It's not the classic comics teleportation with like the purple cloud, but this is pretty effective. Pretty effective. Obviously, I was happy to have a Nightcrawler card, and you can see he's the leader of Excalibur at this time, so that's kind of cool. And I was excited to see the little leader graphic. Ooh, exciting! Extra little graphic. How about that? Teleportation, agility. They don't list his ability to blend in with shadows, which was is probably still a mutant power that comes and goes. It's not always utilized, but Nightcrawler could naturally blend in with shadows. Here's another good one. Phoenix, who's the artist? This is another Ezra Tucker. Again, Ezra Tucker using that perspective, so it's sort of coming a little bit overhead, but again, a bit like Archangel, I think the flight definitely benefits from it, and the fact that it can just fill the frame with something more cohesive to the main body of the image. So we got the Phoenix Flame. This is Jean Grey in her Phoenix guise. I'm curious. Oh no, sorry, this is Rachel Summers. This is Rachel Summers. My mistake. I was about to say, why, I was curious that there was a Phoenix card when we just did Jean Grey. I guess, did Rachel Summers look like this at this time? Maybe she did, because I always think of the Hounds look. In my mind, that's the definitive Rachel Summers. Short hair, more punky hair and the red bodysuit, but not red bodysuit without the gold sash and all that. This seems more Jean Grey to me. But, it's Rachel Summers, who is the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey from the future, who got the Phoenix powers. That's all we need to say about that. I guess she was with Excalibur at this point. I probably wasn't checking out Excalibur as much in the comics. I guess I got a vague notion of her wearing that. I guess even around Fatal Attractions, which I would have had. Shadowcat, look, this is the 90s. This is an era when swimsuit models pretty much sold any product. It was a pretty loosey-goosey time. To me, this is a little bit sexy, this pose for Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde. She's maybe, I guess at this point in the comics, they were aging her up a little bit. In my mind, she's always sort of that younger character. And it just seems a little bit weird. The bend in the back is a little bit exaggerated. This is Brian Stelfreeze. Did Stelfreeze get all the young female characters? See, I liked that Jubilee was muted. She wasn't overly sexualized in her design and in the rendering. Maybe I'm reading this into it. Maybe I'm bringing this to the table. But that pose seems a little bit sexy for me. The exploding TV is pretty cool. That's a little bit MTV, a little bit Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me or something. Seems like right out of a music video. Why is the TV exploding? Who cares? It looks cool, man. And you get to see Shadowcat's powers as she phases through the floor. Did she take a pass through the TV? Maybe they were doing some reports on anti-mutant hysteria. I don't know, something she didn't like on the TV. That's that. Man, we're going a little slow. We gotta speed it up. Here's Domino, and straight away, I don't even need to look. That's a Dan Brereton, if I ever saw one. You can always tell Dan Brereton. He's got that sort of the structure of his faces, they're quite sort of blocky with strong features. The lips are quite bold. There's a depth in the way he draws, but that's a super cool Domino. It's almost like a little bit of an action movie thing where you can almost imagine she's like in a door frame or leaning against the wall in the middle of a gunfight. You can see the smoking gun. It's capturing that sort of X-Force vibe. I dig it. You can pretty easily tell that it's Domino. I could maybe do with a little less of the Dan Burton sort of what is it? It's almost like reminds me of like old horror stuff. He goes a little bit purple maybe on the shadows, a little bit deep with the shadows. With Domino, you want to get that really pale face to really sell that with the black eye. That's a cool card though. I like that. Name unrevealed. And at that point, group affiliation 6-pack, so I guess she's not with X Factor at this point. Was she ever? Because you got to remember, New Mutants 98, that first appearance, quote-unquote, of Domino, it's Copycat, another character that is in this set. But name unrevealed, I think we now know her as Nina Thurston, or something like that. Speaking of X Factor, we got Cable. I got 3 of them. I got 3 cables. I couldn't keep a beast, but I kept all my cables. Don't know why that happened. I guess you gotta keep your cables. Nathan Dayspring Ascani son. Group affiliation, X-Force 6-pack. Whatever you call him, he's Cable. He is the son of Cyclops and Jean Grey. Again, this is where like the Bill Sienkiewicz art is a little bit not quite what I'm looking for in a trading card, because I always felt like, the identifying hallmarks of Cable are lost in this. It's the smokiness of battle. You got your crisscrossing like laser fire or whatever. It's got some drama, it's got some mood, it's got a good like action vibe where he's like he's maybe on sort of like a Terminator style futuristic battlefield stomping along with his big cannon, but I feel like you lose the dynamic visual qualities of Cable. There's enough there that you can read who it is, but it's not immediately, exciting. It's not the dynamic Cable, so I'm a little disappointed in that personally, but them's the breaks. Here's a cool one, Shatterstar, another character who, does he come from the future or is he just Mojo? Is he like a guy from the future who got sucked into the Mojoverse and then, I don't know, whatever. It's cool. It's the later Shatterstar with the red editions. This card's really weird because it's like a full-on, you've got like a painted explosion with like a very graphic pen, sort of like comic book looking Shatterstar in the middle. I like it. I really like it. It's cool. I feel like Shatterstar, you get him in like a jumping pose, that makes a whole lot of sense. The swords are there. You could maybe sell the swords a little better, get those double blades really in focus, but this is a cool card. Shatterstar was never really one of my favorite characters, if I'm honest. I wasn't really a big X-Force guy, so, but I like that card quite a lot. And I guess we're in like X-Forceville. Here's Warpath. So that's pretty cool. Another Dan Burton. Again, you can immediately tell that's Dan Burton. I don't know what to tell you. There's just the way he builds his faces in particular is very, and you can see it in the paint strokes and all that stuff, but there's something about, like the heavy cheeks, the thick lip. I don't know what do you call lips where there's sort of like, there's like they're not full, but there's sort of like an inward incline. I don't know. I don't know. Either way, Warpath looking cool, just sort of stomping along. You could do with maybe something a little bit, give him something a little bit more aggressive. That might be nice. The pose, maybe like have him leaning a little bit more aggressively. As it sort of looks like, that almost looks like I can imagine like Mary Jane being like a Sal Buscema Mary Jane who's in a huff with Peter and storming off, sort of maybe out in the street or something, or in a mall or some department store. I can imagine that's her like storming off in the foreground with Peter standing in the background, like maybe holding some bags, looking sheepish, like he just got in trouble. She's maybe Felicia Hardy was making eyes from across the room, and Mary Jane's taken off, or he's back to his old shtick of going off being Spider-Man when she doesn't want him to. I don't know. I'm reading a lot into that pose, but I swear that's a Mary Jane, maybe a Sal Buscema pose. Hey, speaking of this, okay, Boomer, aka Boom Boom. I still think of her as Boom Boom when I think of it, and I think there's another name now, isn't there? She had a newer name for a little while, and I think she's back to being Boomer, probably just because everybody started calling everything Boomer. All the kids, the TikTok kids doing their little okay Boomer shtick. Okay, whatever, kid. Go empty your diaper. I'm not that old. This is cool, you know. She maybe looks a little bit more mature than I think of. I always thought of like Boom Boom as almost like once Jubilee comes along, it's sort of like Boom Boom gets outmoded because they sort of got the similar. I think Jubilee is a little bit more fireworksy or something, or what is it? What's her deal? Energy plasmoids. I guess it's basically the same thing as Jubilee, or it feels that way. But Boom Boom, I guess hers are they time bombs? Yeah. Generates explosive energy time bombs. I swear I'm not just like remembering the trading cards. I'm thinking of the comics too, but I mean that's cool enough. That's pretty good. Tabitha Stevens. No, what is it? Tabitha Stevens is the kid from Bewitched. Tabitha Smith. Whatever, let's get on with the X-Force. Here's Cannonball. That's a cool one. I mean, it's always cool when you get like a Sentinel getting destroyed in the background. You know you got a good X-Men card when you pull that off. That's pretty good. Nice little painting. Who did this? Who did the... Boom Boom was another Stealth Freeze. I didn't recognize it. Stealth Freeze got all the young female X-Men. What's going on there? Interesting. I can see why, because he did a good job. You know, I think Boomer could have read a little bit younger in the face, but apart from that, I dig it. John Estes. This is a really cool one. I like this. Good Cannonball. That's the Cannonball I think of too. I don't know. I'm always torn because I also, you know, I think of when he had the straight up, when he was the long, skinny, gawky guy with the big Kramer hair. But then I guess Rob Liefeld chops that hair down, gets some goggles on there, gives him a cool sort of 90s jacket. Not bad. Shout out to Rob Liefeld too. He did I listened to his observations about Ed Piskor. And nice stuff. That's a guy who knows something about online bullying, so it was kind of interesting. I'm not going to wade into the debates or anything. I don't know. I do feel compelled to make some observations about the whole situation that I feel like people kept overlooking, but I don't know. Maybe we'll do that some other time. We're checking out X-Men cards here. We're having a nice, easy breezy time. We're trying to embrace the good times. Havoc, super dynamic. I don't know why he's like standing in the middle of a volcano, or the edge of the lava coming down from a volcano, but it's a pretty like dramatic looking card. Who did this? That's a Tom Palmer. Pretty good. You got your little concentric rings. I don't know. The classic rendering for Havoc's powers. This is cool. I guess we're into X Factor now. This is cool. Polaris, but committing a lot to a portrait, and the hair is doing all the work. Admittedly, the green hair is sort of like your biggest visual cue, but I feel like you're giving a lot of the canvas away to something that doesn't really sell the character a lot. It's cool. It'd make a hell of a mugshot. Like, I'm thinking of like Marvel Universe Series 4 or Marvel Universe Series 1, where they would do the little mugshot like on the back when you got your stats. This one doesn't have stats. That was always a bit of a shame for me. I love the stats. But yeah, this is maybe not the most dynamic way to express a character. It's still cool. Who did that? See, that's another Sienkiewicz. And I feel like Sienkiewicz, whatever level he's operating on, it's not getting the most out of the trading card canvas. But I'm looking at something, I'm looking for something literal like this. Here's another Julie Bell. And this is much more, the sophistication of the design is not high. It is very direct. It's photorealistic, slightly hyper-realistic. It's a little bit exaggerated, which I like. But obviously, in terms of understanding it, observing it, you could show this to the man on the street. They're probably going to be impressed. They're going to get it, which I think was the case back then. But I feel like Sienkiewicz is maybe just going a little too obscure. He's losing the canvas in some of these. But yeah, this is a cool one. Great Sea Forge, big gun, robot leg, cyborg leg. That's all you need. Gets it across. Forge is going to be on X-Men 97 because they're doing Life Death. So he's going to be hanging out with Storm, and maybe it's not going to go great. I don't know how the animated version is going to go. Here we got a nice sort of like painted, a painted strong guy. This is another Sienkiewicz, and I feel like maybe he's getting more out of this. I mean, it's great because Strong Guy has that ridiculous, like, overdeveloped upper body, so you can get a strong visual out of that. And I mean, Sienkiewicz is still doing that sort of like smoky mid-ground kind of thing, but to me this is a more effective card. You get like a strong full body figure. It's really cool. It's got a little bit of that, like the Guido humor. That's the character's name, Guido Carosella. I'm not making any kind of like ethnic statements. But the character has that sort of sense of humor, and I feel like that is a little bit conveyed. He's got the smile, he's got the little glasses on, he's doing like a come get some bodyguard for what's her name. I guess we're going back to X-Force. We did X-Factor, now we're back to X-Force for Siren. I prefer Siren, I guess, in the yellow and green. I guess, if I'm really honest. Was she yellow and red at one point? I'm not sure. Yellow and green's a bit more effective. This looks very black and white to me. I don't know if I'm just going colorblind here, but it's a bit drab for Siren in my eyes. Scott Hampton, fair enough. The X-Factor. The X-Force keeps coming. Sunspot, another one that's getting pulled into the X-Men 97 cartoon. He's sort of the new young recruit. He's got I think he's got the yellow and blue. This is the Rob Liefeld. I think Rob Liefeld. No, Liefeld gave him, was it red and white? I'm trying to think of like the New Mutants covers and stuff like that. I think it was red and white at one point, and then it goes to maybe red and blue. Is this after, was he with Gideon at one point? I don't know. I didn't really read all that stuff, so I was sort of loosely aware of it. This is effective enough. I think maybe it would have been cool to get more yellow in the background or something to really make it pop. Or, yeah, you want the dark and light to pop, and I don't know. Yeah, I just feel like the white isn't quite getting it done. I think maybe the white should be yellow. Maybe that's what's missing. The white should be like a real yellow, because it's Sunspot. You want that black to be like really deep, almost like backlit kind of thing. But, effective enough. Gets the idea across. I think this one's a better one. Not a character that I ever had a great affection for, but Richter. I like the drama of it. Who's this? Bill Hall. Bill Hall, this is cool. This almost gives me like a colored pencil vibe when you go scratchy with your pencils kind of thing. I assume it's painted, I'm not sure. But yeah, this is really cool. Richter's got his like seismic attacks, his vibratory waves, so it's kind of like ripping up the earth, creating that little earthquake. You get like a little bit of, you get like a sense of motion. Got the hands coming together, and it's just a nice rendering of Richter as sort of like this, I don't know, like Mad Max X-Men kind of guy. It's not really Mad Max. He's just he's a little bit. It seems a little bit Road Warrior, where he's got like the neckerchief or whatever going on. That's got to be Sienkiewicz. It seems like a Sienkiewicz kind of character. Wolfsbane. Thinking of the New Mutant years. Again, probably not the. I don't know. Something about the It's not the most dynamic, maybe card, but it gets it across. You definitely get a sense of the hairiness, the claws. There's a weird thing going on with the Tuchus. I don't know. That's cool. I mean, I don't want to be knocking on Sienkiewicz, really, because Sienkiewicz is... He's Sienkiewicz. Multiple Man. Jamie Madrox. That's pretty cool. Gets it across. You know, I like that costume for Multiple Man. I like it better than the green one. Green one wasn't cool. I like the X Factor years. Gets it across. All you really need to do is more than one of him. 3 is a good number, I think, for Multiple Man. Gets the point across. Another character who was not one of my favorites, Random, with his like body horror weapon hand. I think he could change his arm into like any kind of weapon. But it's always those big like flesh pipes that shoot. You know, it's not quite Cronenberg, but it's got that body horror vibe. And then he's just sort of like it's like a 2000 AD kind of like mercenary biker guy. There's almost like there's a little bit of like a Lobo Light kind of vibe. You know, I never really got into Ransom. He didn't show up in a lot of stuff that I read. I think I had another trading card of him from the 95 set. Fair enough. Quicksilver, in the X Factor years, he's in the blue though. I did like that very brief period where he had like the X Factor. It's like the really dark blue with the yellow X. I like that look, but this is pretty classic Quicksilver. I feel like there's always a search for the iconic, for the definitive Quicksilver design, and it never quite lands, and it always comes back to this. I like the blue better than the green, I'd say that. It's an effective enough card, you know, he's running fast. I might have preferred like a bit of depth in the image, maybe have him running from the background to the foreground, work something like that, rather than just like this flat sort of two-dimensional sprint, but, you know, good enough. Back of the card's kind of nice with the blue and the pink. Those wireframes are cool. That's a Frank Spinks, if you're curious. We got another Julie Bell. That's a pretty cool looking Lalandra. You know, rocking those reflective metal textures. That's pretty good. Lalandra, not one of my favorite characters, but the Shi'ar Empire stuff is pretty cool. I like X-Men more when they're down to earth and they're dealing with like the racial tension between humans and mutants and stuff like that, and you know, then you get Sentinels and you get evil mutants. When the space stuff never quite resonates with me as much, but Lalandra is legendary, and that's a pretty damn good rendering of Lalandra. I was thinking we were just going to go through all these, but I waffled too long early. Askani's son, or Askani, so she's I guess the caretaker of Cable when he's a baby, dealing with his techno-organic virus. What's her name? Her name's Jen Askani, or Askani. Fair enough. You know, not a card I'm hugely excited about. Speaking of not being excited about, couldn't really care less about Tyler, Cable's son. So, you know, the Tears of the Future, you know, so what is Tyler probably about Cyclops' age? It's always that interesting thing. Cable goes back in time, meets his parents, and he's older than they are. And maybe more seasoned even than they are, so that's kind of interesting. Tyler, not a character I care about. I always think of, it always comes back to the animated series and like Cable's, I don't know how many times they must use, I swear it's the same recording where it's going, "What happened? Tyler! What happened?" He just keeps yelling that. Long Shot. That's a weird one. For some reason, it always made me think of tea. You know, drinking tea. Chai tea or something. I don't know what's going on. I guess, what is this background? It's like a tea house. That's what I think of. That feels like an out-of-date Longshot to me. Longshot is a character that kind of belongs to the 80s in a lot of ways, but this is the wrong 80s. This is not the cool 80s. I don't know how cool Longshot was, but that one got away from him. We've had Wolfsbane. Here's Feral. Once again, you got to be picking up on it now if you didn't know. That's a Dan Brereton. He's got those broad bold features in the faces. Very distinct lips. Makes me think of Elvira or something like that, or maybe even what's her name? I can't think of her name. Jamie something, who was Elvira in the Ed Wood film. Whatever, man. there's a handful of people. Actually, there's somebody else I'm thinking of now. In any event, decent Farrell, gets it across. Maybe not the most exciting pose you could do for Farrell, but again, sells it. This is an interesting one. This is another Stelfreeze. What do you know? He's doing another young female X-Man. It's Dazzler, but it's the more modern Dazzler, where she's a little bit less 80s. Although I say that, you know, in the 80s, I guess, no, I'm thinking 70s. She was a little bit 70s. This is a little bit more 80s, maybe, even though it goes into the 90s with the short hair. Feels a little bit more Flashdance with like the headband and stuff. Whereas she used to be more Xanadu with like the roller skates and the long hair, the face paint, bodysuit. She used to wear like white or silver. And then she goes for a little bit more of the sort of darker colors. This is interesting. That this effect for her powers, because again, you're thinking like, I guess, does she do lights? What did the powers say? We can look at the card. Light powers transduces sound into various forms of light, including lasers. Yeah, that makes sense. The visual always made me think, okay, Jubilee, Boomer, and Dazzler, they all register visually similarly, but yeah, I guess Dazzler is dealing with a different power set, and it could probably be a little bit deadlier in some ways, maybe less concussive and more like laser based. Hey, here's Mirage, which aka Danny Moonstar. This is not the only Moonstar card, if I remember, because around this time, what happens? She ends up. She flips sides. She goes to the bad guys, but you're not sure if it's her, kind of thing. There's a whole kerfuffle. Is this this is Sienkiewicz. Again, this is a more effective Sienkiewicz. It's just a more accessible image. Use the canvas. We just want like the full body represented. And I guess the Native American flourishes are kind of cool. You get some feathers in the boot. I don't know if there's precedent for that, but visually it is interesting. It's a good look. Yeah, and I guess Mirage, this is her mental projection period. We gotta keep moving. Sunfire, the updated 90s look, give him big metal shoulder pads. Reminds me of like one of the Mexican or Japanese wrestlers. You know, this is Sunfire's Ultimo Dragon phase, or you know, something like that, with the big metal shoulder pads. But it's that sort of weird. It's almost like the gold shield from Green Ranger and Red Ranger and the Power Rangers. Super Sentai, I guess. I wonder, the timing of that is probably not too far off. It could be the inspiration. I don't know. Was Jim Lee responsible for that update? I think he might have been. I'm not sure. Not necessarily. It could have been somebody else. I shouldn't speculate, but yeah, that's cool. It gets the fire across. It's the modern design. I probably prefer the classic design with the red and white. I don't necessarily need the Mexican wrestler looking mask. He's almost a little bit like Psychosis or something. I don't know. More Dan Brereton. You can see it straight away. Any kid who didn't see, I wasn't reading X-Force actively, so I didn't really encounter this character a lot at the time. So you see this guy called Weapon X, and you're thinking like, what the hell? I thought Wolverine was Weapon X, or at least, you know, the gang, Wolverine, Sabretooth, Maverick, that kind of deal. But yeah, Garrison Kane. I ended up getting the action figure of this in one of my lesser moments as a consumer. It was an impulse purchase. I got Weapon X and GW Bridge because a department store had a bunch of the X-Men action figures that I had not seen anywhere, and I begged my parents for them, and we came to an arrangement where they would be like, they got put away for a long time where I wasn't allowed to have them until a certain time, like Christmas, or I think I had to get like a really good grade on a report card or something. Grizzly, he's a six-pack guy. Dan Brereton again, I assume. Yeah, Dan Brereton. Not as obvious maybe in the face, but the painting style is the color palettes, and they're just Brereton's very distinct. You can spot him, and that's a really cool grizzly. You know, he's a big red guy. That's good enough for me. He's got guns. That very much that X-Force kind of vibe. So six pack. He's with Domino. He's with Cable, and whoever else they can get to come along. Here's one now. It's Hammer. Hammer is sort of like what? The jerk-ass tank-wielding Professor X. It's like Professor X if he was a military washout or something. I don't know. Reminds me a little bit of, is it Bone Crusher or Skull Crusher? One of the Reavers, the guy with the tank treads? I don't know. I don't know what this guy's deal is. I don't really know Six-Pack that well. I should get some more X-Force comics. I might even have some that I need to look at more closely. I got comics here, like always. Maverick, that's a cool one. A little bit of an action shot. Again, interesting perspective. Is this? Oh, this is Bo Hampton, so the perspective is not the same guy. That's cool. Maverick, it might have been good to see a bit more of the gold mask, a bit more clearly. Put the mask up front, because that's such the visual signature of that character, but sure, that's fine. Extreme, another character who I did not have a lot to do with, aka Adam X. I think they brought him back, like, I don't know how many years ago now. He's missing his backwards baseball cap. He was a little bit like the Comic Zone guy. I always thought. He's got some axes. He's got a dagger. He's just going to the extreme. Extreme! What a stupid character. I don't know. I think at one point it was like floated. Is he the third Summers brother? They had that whole thing. I think it turns out to be Gambit. I just bumped my camera, which means the video is frozen. Man, this camera is so temperamental. The cable, you bump that cable even slightly, you're in trouble. See if we can salvage it. We're good. And we mentioned this character before. It's another Dan Burton special. Shooting a couple of guns. It's Copycat, who is the shape-shifting character who was Deadpool's girlfriend. So Morena Baccarin is playing her in the movie, even though she never appears really as Copycat. She doesn't use the powers. They put her in that power-inducing tank. I thought maybe that was going to be it, but they never really went there. They killed her off. Vanessa Carlyle, Rob Liefeld just pulling those Go-Go's references, or what is it? Belinda Carlisle, you know? Yeah, so when Domino appears in New Mutants 98, it's not Domino, it is actually Copycat. And that concludes the heroes. So I guess Copycat constitutes a hero. I didn't necessarily always think of that. Kicking off the villains. Check that out for a card. Who's this? This is a Bob Larkin. That is a great looking card. Love that one. Remember getting that and being very happy with that. Kicking off the supervillain, you can see the X-Men design. It changes into sort of like a purple, darker purple color for the villains, sort of a bluish. Is it an indigo violet kind of thing? I don't know, but that is a very cool looking card. Even if it doesn't sell magnetism clearly, doesn't matter. It looks awesome. That is a all-time Magneto right there. Love that. Love that. And then Brereton comes in swinging. We got two of them. It's Mr. Sinister, another great one. These are the days. I mean, check that out. He's got Wolverine's mask. Anytime you can sneak something a little extra, just juice it a little bit more, squeeze a little bit more out of the card. That's always cool. Mr. Sinister, he doesn't necessarily read the way I think of at the time. Might have been nice to get. He's got those Brereton lips on that. Might have been nice to thin that bottom lip a little, get the teeth in, the jagged teeth. Might have been a more effective way to sell Mr. Sinister in my mind. Because, and even like in terms of physicality, I don't necessarily need Mr. Sinister to look this physically impressive. He's a little bit thick in the legs. I think of maybe Mr. Sinister, you want to emphasize the opposite. Get the cape, the body thing, and maybe work the legs a bit more thin. When I think of like Mark Silvestri or someone like that drawing it, I think that's more how it is. He's almost inverted the triangle of the body. You want the upper body and the thinner legs, maybe. I don't know. It's still a cool card. Very good. Very effective. Mr. Sinister, I like when, this is when Mr. Sinister was a problem. He's a bit of a joke now. Or he got a little bit silly for a while. Check this out. So this is Deadpool supervillains. He has not really gone anti-hero. He's more mercenary. He's causing trouble. Is this a Sienkiewicz? No. This is a Bo Hampton, and a bit like the Wolverine card, I just feel like the pose is wrong. You're not selling the best aspects of Deadpool here. Yeah, that's not an image that gets me real excited about Deadpool. I was excited about Deadpool back in these days. I don't really know why, because I wasn't reading a lot of the comics that he was in. I always regret missing. There was an issue of Wolverine, that one with sort of like the red and black silhouette. Saw that at a service station, didn't grab it. Should have got it. Good issue. You'll never get it cheap now. Deadpool, wildly overrated in some ways, because of the masses, the dirtbags, the gamers. They're all jacking those prices up beyond reason. Not worth it. Not a great design on that card, in my opinion. Maybe you disagree. Feel free to leave a comment in the appropriate section. Here's a Glenn Fabry Juggernaut stomping through the mist, the dust. It's almost like, makes me think of all those construction sites the Juggernaut menaced over the years, and he's just like stomping out of the rubble. Maybe somebody's just dumped something on him, dropped a building on him, and he's just walking through the dust. Unstoppable. You could do better for Juggernaut, maybe emphasize the size of him, but that's still a really cool card. Hey, here's a cool villain. Cyber. I don't know why he's like encased in rock or something, but there you go. Cyber was a big deal at this time. Of course, he was one of the few characters that Wolverine feared. He's got the toxin in his little claws. He's got the adamantium coating. He's kind of like one of those characters. He's a bit like a Doomsday or something, where he's the ultimate physical threat, but there's not enough to him. There's nothing else. Where do you go with a character like that? I don't know. He was just kind of cool. Fair enough. Another good one. We got Apocalypse. How we doing? We're coming up to an hour. We might have to break this one up. That's a pretty nice Apocalypse. That is a Dan Burton. The Dan Burton lips become a whole different kettle of fish when you're doing Apocalypse. I really love the model, the physique that he's gone with on Apocalypse. That is a great rendering of Apocalypse. Really cool. You could do something to maybe sell the scale of him a bit more. To do something to sell the height of the character, but this is an effective image. Very good. Check this one out. This is another good one. Omega Red. That's pretty cool. Another character where it's really like the visual is what matters. He's maybe in terms of threat, he's out of control. He can sap your life energy if his coils get you, and they always get you. He's like invincible. I don't know. It's like a whole thing. He's got like the death touch, the death pheromone. A character that probably should have worked better, but didn't get around enough, maybe. There was an appearance in like Iron Man. He showed up in Cable. He got around a couple of places and then just got shelved because it wasn't working, I don't think. As a character, he's back now because, of course, now you got like 90s nostalgia, and kids who grew up maybe not knowing better are trying to make this stuff work again. Here's Mystique. That's a John Estes. We got a couple of those. Another card that sneaks in some more references. Maybe some of the guises that she could adopt with her shape-shifting powers. This is the classic Mystique. This is what Mystique should look like in my mind. Even if it doesn't entirely make sense. She's got that weird like loincloth thing going on with the skulls. It's maybe a little bit cheesy. Maybe there was a Mystique solo series in like the early 2000s where she sort of got an updated look where it was a little bit more utilitarian. It was still white on her natural blue skin. Perfection. Or whatever, X-Men First Class. I just like this classic look, and I like the strong identity, and I reject the movie-invented scales. The scales are good for like creating a layer for animation for her shape-shifting. Comics don't really have to deal with that. I like the blue skin as a simple conceit. How we doing? We're coming up to about halfway. Maybe we should reconvene. I guess I got more of these than I thought, and I waffled a little too much early on. Sauron, or Sauron. Not one of my favorite villains, but still kind of cool. Is just like he's a dinosaur man. He's a pterodactyl man, which is kind of cool. Weird though, because he's a pterodactyl man. You would think that's it, but he's also like he hypnotizes dudes, and then he ends up in the Savage Land. In the comics, he joins like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants with in like is that in the Rob Liefeld X-Force? Might even be after him. I'm not sure. I can't remember quite when Liefeld's out. Yeah, Sauron's a weird one. And there's this sense of like he's like you get like the famous battles, Wolverine, Sauron, but you know those guys aren't throwing down the way like Sabretooth or someone is. It's one of those ones. It feels like the visual was what sold the character, and maybe sold it to people who weren't quite as invested in the comics. I'm not sure. Maybe I wasn't invested enough in Sauron comics. Couple of doubles here. We're out of focus. It's Strife, the evil clone of Cable who runs the Mutant Liberation Front. Has there ever been a more Rob Liefeld character than that? I guess he's from the future. He's a clone. Is he from the future? I don't know. Dave Borman doing a very interesting rendering of White Queen, Emma Frost. You see, she's credited as White Queen, and she is a supervillain at this point. Both of those things will change. She'll become, for a long time there, she'll be known as Emma Frost, and she'll come to the side of the light, which is kind of interesting. I do think of her more as a villain, but she's probably been a hero as long or longer than she was a villain, because she did the whole thing with like Generation X after the Hellions and all that stuff. So kind of an interesting card. It's a little bit subdued. It's, you know, I don't, you know, my issue isn't so much that it isn't the hypersexualized Emma Frost that we see in a lot of comics, but it's just like in terms of her position as the figure in the image, it's a little bit small, it's a little bit reserved. The pose isn't overly dynamic. I'm not really sure what's going on with like the circle behind her. It makes me think of like Diablo or something, you know, like the video game, sort of some sort of heretical symbol or something, which isn't really what White Queen's about. I don't know if it's supposed to be a visual representation of her telepathic abilities or something. I'm not sure. How we doing? I mean, I'm down to do more X-Men stuff and talk more X-Men. Although in terms of the trading card arc, we've had developments on the NBA side, and I do want to come back and do more NBA stuff. There will be more pack ripping, box breaking on that side of things. The superhero side, maybe not. A little too expensive, and there's issues that just make me a little uncomfortable with it. Here's Haven. Haven's one of those characters, I guess. Did she show up in X Factor or no X Force? Both? Neither? Was it X? I think it was X Factor. One of those characters who sort of came in with a certain mystique and all that to her, but I don't really know. I don't know if it quite worked out. I feel like Haven is a bit like Rainfire. Some of those characters who were sort of like they were goosed up to be a big deal in the 90s, but then didn't really have the juice to go the distance. I don't know. I feel like I don't have the juice to go the distance. I'm going to slow motion now. I'm getting tired. It's daylight savings and stuff. Yeah, let's reconvene. So I've got, you can see the stack. This is the stack that we've done. We've looked at some great stuff. So I went into my personal archive to dig these out, went into storage, found as many as I could from as many sources as I had. Some of them were in like a binder with sleeves in no particular order. At some point I just started stuffing cards in there, I guess. Some of them were in a crate that had trading cards. Somewhere I will have Beast and I will have other missing cards, but I don't know where they are, I'm afraid. So this is what's still to come. We can check these out. Sadly, this is one that I never got a full set, and I feel like I probably never will, because the cost to value ratio is pretty out of whack these days, and I don't know that I don't have. I'm not a rich guy, you know. I ain't no senator's son, and the cost is just a little too much to me. It doesn't seem right. I mean, you think some of these cards graded at a high high score. They're like $1,000 each. Now, I'm not looking for graded cards. I did see I could get some of them for like $6 each, but $6 for one card. I used to buy singles of these and they were nowhere near that damn much, and I just cannot justify spending that much. I could get like a couple of comics for $6, and you want me to get one trading card? I don't know. I'm tempted to replace my beast if I can't find it. I'm not gonna cross the streams, but at some point we got to do some like comics talk. I want to get some of that like cartoonist kayfabe vibe. But there's always X-Men. There's always comics in the office. Here's one. It's cool. It's Bishop and Sabretooth. Sabretooth stalking through the mansion. That's the end of Sabretooth's tenure with the X-Men. That little thing's over. There's the Forge Life Death. I think I had that up on another stream. We got some New Mutants. Mr. Sinister and the X-Factor. Anyway, it's getting real late. I gotta get moving. This has been real nice. This is a nice time to just hang out, share a little bit of pop culture with you. This is the Hellhole way. We like to hang out and enjoy the good old days, the good old times. What do you think? Leave a comment. Tell me, what do you think of this series? Are you familiar with this X-Men set? Are you keen to see the back half? What are some of your favorite cards? What about some of the ones that I don't have? Have you got some of those? Are there some great ones that I don't have? I don't know. Just say hi. Just say what's up. Whatever. You know, you can do that in the chat as well. I always tend to stream at like really terrible hours, so there's been a few names coming through the chat. I don't know if they're bots. I don't know if they're humans. Sentinels, some sort of advanced sentinel. Aren't they always? That's the hellscape we live in, the digital domain. It's a good one. Man, so many great cards. Man, the nostalgia of this set is just, like I said, this is my favorite, probably my favorite X-Men set. One of my favorite superhero trading card sets. There's a few. We'll revisit some of them over the coming months, probably. I love that design. We gotta see. I gotta do a second stream of this to get my money's worth from the little cute little graphic I made. It makes my stream look like one of the trading cards. Isn't that thrilling? And you see the background I made inspired by the box and the packets. The packets themselves are really boring, so I haven't bothered to find an image of those. The box, you know, it's kind of cool. It's got some of the cards. It's got the X-Men logo on it. The packets themselves are just silver. There's no character representation. So that's a little one of the less exciting packet designs, but the cards themselves, what a thrill it was back in the day. You could find these just about, maybe not everywhere, but I'd be out and about. I'd be scanning, you know, maybe I'm a little bit bored, maybe I'm stuck with my parents or something, they're looking at something, I'm scanning the periphery. You know, I'm thinking of Ed Piskor and the cartoonist kayfabe guys a lot lately, because it's just so sad that he is apparently gone. It's hard to process. But he would talk about, you know, I feel like we're different guys, but there was a common experience. And I definitely think about, you know, you're the young comics fan. You're always looking to squeeze as much as you can out of it. Can I get a comic here? You know, you're scanning the periphery. Where can I grab something? And these X-Men cards would definitely be out and about. I remember being places where there wasn't much going on, but hey, there's a box of cards on that counter. Can I get it back? Get it back, see what comes out of it. The back half of this set, you know, we've just started scratching the supervillains, but there's some other subsets, and I really liked the classic X-Men have their own subset, and I remember seeing them for the first time. That kind of blew my mind, because it felt unusual at that time. It felt like the 90s was not embracing the classics at that time. It was all about, you know, what's next, and that sort of, you know, just that 90s cool aesthetic and over-the-top wild aesthetic, you know, so it was really a mind-blowing thing to see the classic X-Men rendered that way, because I always liked the classics. I like the Kirby and Lee comics. Fantastic Four is probably my big one, you know, I like that. Spider-Man with Lee and Ditko, obviously. Love the classic comics. We gotta get comics in here. I gotta get, you know, I need an injection of life so I can talk about things articulately and not be quite so boring. I'm awfully tired these days, and I think I'm having some health issues. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Shut up. We're enjoying X-Men. Mutants. Running wild. I gotta check out X-Men 97 at some point, I think. Thanks for hanging out, guys. This has been really cool. A nice slice of nostalgia. We're back to do some more. Maybe we'll switch it up. We'll do NBA and then we'll come back to X-Men. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll continue X-Men. Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer Timeline. Chapter 11 is up now. We got to get that done. Really, just hoping to finish that out because that's been really nice. Would love if you do check out the Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer Timeline chapters. What do you think of the story? Leave a comment about that because it's been... People have been checking it out. I've been getting some likes and stuff, and that's really cool. But I'd love to just, what do you think of the differences? How does it stack up against Mortal Kombat 1? I set out to try to come up with a better alternative. I'm not sure if I'm pulling it off. I don't think that will be totally determined until we get to Chapter 15, the last chapter. Because I think Chapter 14 and 15, a lot hinges on those. That's where it will become apparent if it was worth it or not, I think. I'm not quite sure if I got there, but I think we got some cool ideas. The chapters that are there have some cool ideas. Chapter 11 is a bit of it's one of the longer chapters, and it's a little bit of like a run all night kind of sequence. It's a bit of a, it's not a chase per se, but it's a lot of running around. Hopefully you enjoy it. Tried to crank up some of the presentation elements just to keep it a little bit interesting. It's sort of a bit of a perfunctory chapter in that respect. Jade is the featured character, which is kind of cool because, I didn't necessarily expect that going into it. Jade is not one of my favorite characters generally. Hopefully that's not too apparent from the chapter itself. She's sort of there as she's like a connective piece between aspects of the story, and she's going through different things, connecting with different characters, and I like that kind of thing, and hopefully you like that kind of thing too. So go check that out. Leave a comment if you're, particularly maybe on some of the older chapters too, where there's some more substantial things, because a lot of this thing has just been about the story, the characters, just like this stuff. We love the characters. We look at these cards, but there's a whole history behind them. We love to see the visual qualities and then extrapolate mentally into all the stuff that it means, and that's what we're trying to do with the Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer Timeline. We're trying to show you what's different, tell a new story as well. We'll do some more stuff. I'll be back soon. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Adios, amigos.